this is Front Row, top news in the Virgin Islands is told only by JTV. Today, on our elections feature, we zero in on new features of political campaigning here in the Virgin Islands. PVIM's Lunchtime Digest. Debates have increased this season. District 90 candidates sat on two, one on Anegada and the other on Virgin Gorda. And while not at all new, VIP Let's Talk, a recent feature with several of their candidates, had a lot to say on two particular matters, which you will hear of after this quick word from our sponsors.
When things get hot like a sauna, you want a Lana in your corner. I'm feeling stronger with Lana in we corner. Our country has more power with Lana in we corner. The future looking brighter with Lana in we corner. We have a real fight with Lana in we corner. Yes, we have a rocket launcher. Lana in we corner. Ready to blow up any monster. Lana in we corner. No retreat, no surrender with Lana in we corner. Yes, we have a real defender with Lana.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050. Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year. Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
we will live well.
Opiate. Hi, I'm Cowboy, and I'm running for president of Stake. Thank you. And I will meet your needs. Some bathrooms are so expensive to build, they come with security. But at Staycation Butchers, our meats are affordable. People always ask me, Cowboy, where does your salmon come from? Well, our salmon comes from the water. I vote for Cowboy as a vote for quality, integrity, and consistency. So come into Staycation Butchers and cast your vote for me, your next president of Steak. Alexandra Durant approves this message.
No, I don't.
Welcome back. The road to the Virgin Islands 2023 general elections has seen innovative ways of campaigning. One, the Progressive Virgin Islands Movement's program titled Lunchtime Digest with Candidates.
It's become so important to be able to stream to people wherever they are in their homes. Yes. I think the pandemic created that dynamic of the comfort of it's reaching to you in your homes, but now you recognize that we're not looking and not seeing, and I've been to many rallies in different districts. You're not seeing large numbers in all of the districts like that. But when you recognize outside the tents, the cars are filled with people. Yes. They're driving by, they're listening on the radio, and the number of views, the live views are about 200. And then when you look at the playback views, because I get to see that that kind of information, 1,000 people are looking at that. Then the clips that they make from the debates and they send them around. So social media and the internet has been a really strong player in the election. And before I get the first question, I ask Ian, what do you think about that? Because in order for us to power this election, we need a good infrastructure. Right. You're going to be in charge of the capital if you win. Any comment on what we can expect?
Yes. As you rightfully said, behind any good car is a good engine. So the engine is basically the machinery or foundation for this party and for any parties. And it's good for us to reach out to the public so that the public can hear what we have to say. Just go back a decade, we didn't have this platform. So you would have had to come to rallies. Also, we have to look at our legislation and different things where, say, public servants are limited in terms of their participation and persons don't want to engage in that light. And there was somewhat disenfranchised. So this platform that we have online, where we have our technocrats who can send our message out, it's excellent.
You know what I like about being around you PBIM candidates? Y'all are really smart.
Now, what was the first question candidates responded to for digestion by those listening?
Does the PBIM have any thoughts on promoting sports within the territory? Sport tourism, like hosting the Carifta Games. Before you answer the question, congratulations to our Carifta athletes who represented us well in the Bahamas, and to the 2 athletes that medaled and got their silver medals, and to those who set their personal best and broke national records. Congratulations to you. We are proud. The answer?
Okay, I'll take that question. As part of my platform, I spoke about sports. We have Demoy Hodge, we have the Freitas, we have Adeja Hodge, we have a number of athletes who have excelled overseas. We need to have those same facilities here. We need to have coaches, physiotherapists, whatever plus that we can give those athletes to compete on a global village. We need to have that right here because BVI has shown that we have the heart. All you need is a heart. Once you have the different mechanisms, we just spoke about the technical stuff here. Once we have that for students, we can develop in basketball, track and field, softball, and the like. Just look at the history of sports in the BVI. We did well in LIBA tournaments. We did well in international softball tournaments, CAC Pan Am Games, and the like. So I think we dropped the ball over a number of years, and we need to go back there and fund the sports correctly. I think we also need to ensure that it's budgeted for in the budget. We find that you see a number of the groups selling water, doing bake sale, car washes, just to fund a trip to an international event. In whatever discipline, we have shown over the years that we can go pound for pound with any country, even the USA. So we have to ensure that we give them that chance. We also need to create not just activities during the season, like if it's basketball season or softball or track and field, have that done throughout the year so that we can continue to be competitive.
Do you think, Honorable Flackshaw, should we develop it to the point that he's talking and then go into sports tourism, or can we do it simultaneously?
Well, what I would say is there's some small level of sports tourism happening. A couple of weeks ago, I attended a football game, football as in soccer, so that persons who don't know that it is football. And that was an international match. Okay. And so we've already started in that field, but our facilities need to be on a particular level to be able to meet those international standards. So while we are able to host some games and so forth on a smaller scale, we have to build our infrastructure. And that is key to anything that we do. As a vice president of the BVI Football Association years ago, it is something that we've looked at, and one of the main things would be land in order to get the facilities done. Some of the international organizations are willing to assist with the facility, but they're not willing to pay for the land. In most places, the land would be leased and the land remains the property of the country, but the infrastructure is then put in. And I think we need to look in that direction, improve on the facilities we have. I remember years ago too, we had the Buster Cup in cricket, and I've never seen so many people at the O.A. Shirley grounds, because cricket is so big throughout the Caribbean and big in the U.S. Virgin Islands, because you have a lot of persons from the islands that really put a lot into cricket. It was easy for them to hop on a ferry and come across, but we want persons to be able to stay on the island, so we also need to build out our tourism product as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Can I add, right, certainly to add to what Ian said, one of the things we definitely need to do here in the BVI is to support the coaches for the various athletes. I think the coaches, it is done on a volunteer basis at the moment, right? But in other Caribbean countries, they're actually hired. It's actually an 8 to 5 job where the coaches are in place to guide and coach and support the athletes. And I think we need to get to that point as well. Like Shireen said, we do have some sort of sports tourism on a very small scale, but to get to really hosting the Carifta Games, our infrastructures need to be better developed, and we certainly have to put some budgetary dollars behind of it.
The next question is zeroed in on education.
The next question that we have from someone who submitted online: what are your views on removing the 6th form from high school, as well as going back to a British standard of education instead of American, i.e., using words like Form 1, Form 2, etc., instead of grades 9, 10, 11, etc.? So the first part of the question is your view of removing the 6th form from high school and then going back to British standard, a way that you would have known, I would have known, because I came out in 2000, so I was in Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, until you get 5 arts and all that. And now all of a sudden, my cousins are telling me I'm in grade. I'm like, you're in what? It's like the computation in my head, it doesn't work anymore. What are your views on that?
Well,
you have children in the school system, yes?
Yes, I do, okay. But I am accustomed of the grade 12, grade 11, whatever.
Okay.
Because I don't know whether it was fortunate or unfortunate for me. At 9 years old, I passed my primary 5 exam.
Okay.
And
at 9 years old?
At 9 years old.
Okay.
Was not accepted.
You've been smart a long time.
Long time. And was not accepted at the BVI High School.
Oh.
Because my sister as well, Sharon, because they said we were too young. So we were shipped out to St. Croix. So I'm used to that system, and we were able to blend in quite well and did very well within the system. I believe that whichever system we use, we just need to make sure that the curriculum is at a standard that it needs to be at. Because for me, English and American, I'm not too familiar now with the high school from the English standpoint. But for me, it's really just spelling the word center, C-E-N-T-E-R, as opposed to C-E-N-T-R-E.
The correct way.
And those type of things. I believe that our young people are very brilliant. I don't believe that we need to have that sixth form.
Okay.
In my opinion, I just believe that based on my experience and the experience of other students coming up now, they are able to be mature enough to move on to the next level. And you're hearing the complaints from parents and students as well who say that we're in 11th grade, then we go to 12th and there's nothing really new that we're learning.
Okay.
So to me, it's just a matter of fixing that system to suit the results and so forth that we've gotten, and not keep back a child because they might be 14 or 15 years old. Because they're very mature, they're very smart. I don't believe in the additional year at all. I didn't think it's necessary.
Mr. Smith, I believe you have a child that's actually in the school system, currently?
Yes.
Right?
I have an 8-year-old and I have
so you're
two older adult children who.
So the 8-year-old is listening to you right now. It's a boy or girl?
Girl.
And so the girl is, what does daddy think about me having an extra year?
Well, I can tell you, you have the private schools who don't have the extra year.
Okay.
And when you look at the performance of the individuals in the private school, they are doing well. So I don't think that additional year has added any value in terms of the education system. But what I must say is that we need to look at a national education plan. I heard that from persons in the ministry, and we need to meet the students where they are. Not everyone is good in academics. Right. We have to look at academics, arts, mechanic, marine. So we have to look at different scenarios because we might be keeping a child in school for an extra year while that child could be doing trade. That child could be working at a charter boat company. That child can be flying a plane. So we have to look at the system in totality and see how we can revamp that. But my personal view is it doesn't add value because you have St. George's, you have 7-Day, and you had BVI High School before, Elmer Stout High School, where all the top students did well and they competed on an international scale within the Caribbean, doing well in CXC with the existing system. So I think it's something we have to look at, and we also have to look at the costs. There's always a financial burden on the parents, the country, the taxpayers, and the government. So we have to look at that as well.
See, that's the banker's point of view right there. I never thought about that because it is an entire extra year as a uniform that's feeding for an entire year, transportation for an entire year, and then, of course, one more year with people, now you're more mature, more social activities, you know, and you could have already been out probably making a few dollars to carry that. How about you, Ms. Mo? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I have not heard or seen what has been the benefit of sixth form. I have two adult children, but I also have other family members who are still in the educational system, and I haven't seen any real benefit to having the sixth form in place. And then the other thing we have to determine, are we British or are we US? We need to decide, you know, which side of the fence we are on. The last time I checked, we are still British. And if that's the case, then we need to look at our curriculum and ensure that what we have in place is, you know, is following not just we in British, we in US, the children are being confused in terms of what system we are following, and you know we need to get that remedied.
Though not new, it has increased significantly debates. For the first time in the history of the Virgin Islands, a political debate was held on the island of Anegada. This was done on April 16, and all 4 candidates contesting the District 9 seat participated. Extracts from that.
The Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic is still without a resident doctor, nor are there any dentists on Anegada. How do you plan to address this situation? I will repeat. The Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic is still without a resident doctor, nor are there any dentists on Anegada. How do you plan to address this situation?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Both circumstances are very unfortunate. And I can guarantee you there's no reason why there should not be a doctor here at least 6 days a week. When you send me back to the House of Assembly, I would ensure there is a doctor here immediately in April or early May, at least 6 days a week. The 4 you currently have should be Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday. There's no reason you can't have at least a Wednesday added in there, so that'd be at least 5 days. That can be done right now. The dentist is also very unfortunate, and I must commend Nurse Romelia herself for leading the charge and trying to get a dentist chair acquired. I was told just last week that most of the money has been raised. If I gotta use my own money, I would make sure, because you're paying insurance like everybody else, but not receiving the benefit of a dental care at Anegada that you're being paid for. And that is very unfair to the Anegada people. I would ensure that that dental chair is in there in May of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Wheatley. Mr. Vanterpool, the question is directed to you. The Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic is still without a resident doctor, nor are there any dentists on Anegada. How do you plan to address this situation?
I plan to address this situation by removing a doctor from wherever it is, Tatola or Virgin Gorda, have them present in our clinic. Secondly, I will make sure while that is going on, we have doctors and nurses overseas studying to come back home to serve us here. We have a problem, this one don't want to come here and that one don't want to come here. But if you're hired, wherever the medical fertility send you, I think you should go, else you need to go home and relax. But I will make sure, because I am a sufferer, and I will make sure that we get, whether young, middle age, to go and study to be a doctor and a dentist so we can have our own people here. And when I say that, I'm serious about it. It will not be like how we send them off to school before and they remain in the US and the UK and don't return. I will find them because that is our taxpayers' dollars and they have to have respect for that. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool. Mr. Levens, the question is, the Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic is still without a resident doctor, nor are there any dentists on Anegada. How do you plan to address this situation?
That situation, that's a good question, Madam Moderator, and I'm going to tell you why it's a good question, because a lot of times we could just say, we put a doctor here and we put a dentist here, but let me teach you about scalability and common sense. If you have competent nurses in place, as we do in Anegada, then all we have to do is put the doctor into rotation when the doctor is needed. It's not to say that Anegada don't need a doctor, but we have to be practical in the things that we do. You can't bring a dentist and put him up in a building and individuals only seeing the dentist once every 2 weeks. The best thing for us to do, based on how we organize, is for us to be able to take the appointments and set up the facility so that the dentist could come and he could spend a couple days and deal with the people of Anegada, and if there's anything, he go back up. But to strengthen us in terms of our doctor, you know what we really need to put in place? We need to get the airlift fixed, because that would mitigate the risk. In the event that the nurse make a phone call, then the nurse could say, listen, that plane need to be able to come in here and go. Because I'm going to tell you this, if you don't have the facilities in Anegada and have the doctor, but the doctor don't have the tools to undertake the task, the plane ain't still got to come and move the passenger. So the problem is a much greater problem. The problem is putting the Medivac in place to be able to facilitate the transport of the passenger. But you could bring a doctor and you could put him up there. You have an ICU. You have the tools in place to be able. So sometimes things that sound good on the surface, but you got to go down and dig down in it to make sure that it makes sense. The current system, if it's working, work the system. However, if the nurse feel that it's too burdensome, increase capacity so that we could take the burden off. But Anegada needs medical care. But we have to be practical in the administration of things. That's why governments is promised and they can't deliver, because they just over-promise and tell a bunch of over-ambitious things that don't make no sense. This is about scalability and this is about common sense approach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levens. Honorable Flatstraws, the question is, the Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic is still without a resident doctor, nor are there any dentists on Anegada. How do you plan to address this situation?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I know personally of several doctors that have requested to be moved to Anegada full-time. And when I say full-time, not 6 days a week. What happens on that 7th day if you have an emergency? Our nurses are very capable, but just as Virgin Gorda has doctors 7 days a week and into the night, so should Anegada. I've written, I've called, I've prodded, I've done everything with the ministers for the portfolio of health. I do not believe the will is there of who makes the decisions and who signs. Funds must be reallocated because the dentists will need modern equipment. We have to schedule dental clinics until the population gets to the size where you need to have a dentist on a regular basis. Pay is another issue. We can also institute a program for retired doctors from overseas. But the accommodations for the doctors and nurses need to be comfortable. I know of situations where you have a doctor coming over to stay, the refrigerator isn't working, the AC isn't working. We have to make our medical personnel comfortable. We have lots of persons overseas from the BVI, but you cannot pay them $30,000 to come home when they're making $150,000 in New York. So we have to compensate our people. I don't know why it is that we seem to have a problem with compensating our own people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Flats Charles. At this point in time, we will open the floor for rebuttals.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I will just say, because we often we know what the problems are, but we don't often have the path to the solution. Well, let me explain to you what the path to the solution is. The path to the solution of the Romelia Clinic lies with the chairman of the BVI Health Services Authority and his board. These are the people legally charged to deliver health services to the people of the BVI, and Anegada is an island in the BVI. So I will aggressively engage the Health Services Authority board to make sure that they're doing what they are legally mandated to do, which is to bring medical services to all the people of the British Virgin Islands. And that must include Anegada and Nurse Romelia Smith Clinic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vincent, I take a different part. The responsibility to ensure healthcare is provided for people stands with the government. It is the government that provides the funding for the health authority to be able to go. It is the director that stands up at standing finance and battle for the money to get the things done. And it is the government that sometimes cut the budget. It's not that we don't have the ability to get these things, you know. It is the commitment by the government. Don't hide it under anything else. Many of these institutions that you see, they're operating because they don't have capacity in terms of finances to operate. Secondly, if you want to help Anegada, put in the infrastructure first to accommodate the doctor, to accommodate the equipment, to accommodate the tools, so that when you put the doctor in place, the doctor could actually do the work that he's ordained to do. But to put a doctor in place by April and you don't have the tools up the road as to do anything, revert us back to exactly what it is I'm telling you. The airlift must be fixed. Anegada, we deserve better, and
Thank
better
you,
we will
Mr.
get.
Evans. Mr. Vanderpool or Mrs. Flats Charles, if you care to rebut.
We definitely need an air ambulance. That is no doubt about it. We all know it. We all live it, and it is a reality. We first have to have $600 to open up the airport. And that even ain't starting. When you end up, it's a $3,000 bill you are getting. I put it to you here today, no government that we are ever put in cares about us. Bottom line, they cares about themselves. Now, we say be active, let's stay active. When you elect me, hold me to the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Airlift is definitely a priority for the PVIM government. But I will say the chairman of the BVI HSA board was someone not even living in the BVI. I fought vigorously for that not to happen, but the decision was not mine to make. You're living over in St. Thomas, and when we have a medical crisis, you're not around. You're not here. You don't understand how we feel. I had a child that had to be evacuated as well. So I'm not just talking for talking's sake. I know how every one of you feel in this room. And having someone from outside, it's been changed now, to run the board of BVI Health Services Authority should never have happened. We live in a democratic society that has turned into a dictatorship.
If you received a large grant to use for the Anegada community in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? I shall repeat. If you received a large grant to use for the Anegada community in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I would upgrade my airports and my ports. And why I would do that is because Anegada is a tourism destination. Everybody on Anegada lives off the tourists. So it is imperative that we facilitate movement of people, because by facilitating movement of people, the people of Anegada benefit, and you turn the wheels of the economy. Because once you start to get the movement of people, look what happened. You have a guy that buy a bus. You have a guy that have to pay insurance. You have a person that has to hire someone. You have someone who have to rent the apartment. And what you start to do is you start to turn the wheels of the economy. So I would invest in actually fixing our airport. And in fixing the airport, what I would do also is I would make sure that I get in bed with companies like Cape Air and our local companies to provide direct access, because Vojangada has that. And that is why I mentioned the intermodal port. I would also open up our port of entry and put down the facility that we here talking about. Because once we put down that facility now and we open up the port of entry, when the cruise ships them come in now, the cruise ships them could come into Anegada. We clearing the cruise ship. We got the revenues now moving from the people to immigration and customs. And now we have taxi men that will be able now to start to move people in large numbers and would be able now to scale their business and to buy other taxis and to move. So my focus would be on transportation, because tourism is key to Anegada. And what we will do by doing that now is that now would allow us to propel the other industries.
Thank you, Mr. Levens. Honorable Flats Charles, if you received a large grant to use for the Anegada community in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Thank you. Assuming that this grant is about $10–20 million, I may be being ambitious, but I think we need to have a holistic approach. I spoke about the steel pan program. That's only about $50,000. We need to get those back roads fixed. Those need to be done. The airport and seaport definitely will have to be on the list. We will also create that home economic lab at the school. Subsidize the ferry services on the days when there's no ferry, so Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And these are things that will holistically help a wide variety of people at the same time. And it might seem ambitious, but you didn't give me a figure. So I assume that that grant is in the millions of dollars. And also to improve our sports facilities here in Anegada as well. We can put in a 200-meter track and have trainers. There are trainers in Vojangada that are willing to come here to work with our track and field athletes in Anegada. And so once that money is up in that millions of dollars, the PVIM government can work wonders with that grant. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Flats.
Is it one thing or a bunch of things you can do? I wasn't clear.
I will repeat the question for
Please,
you.
yeah.
If you received a large grant to use for Anegada community in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I have to agree with my colleague Hoy over there. Transportation. Transportation will provide the impetus for a lot of things to happen. If you get a better connection to Anegada, you can bring more government services, you can bring more public services. But the key thing is to get bodies underground in Anegada, thus creating an economic effect here on Anegada. It's a key thing. Numbers drive commerce. We also have in transportation, it also creates the medical situation where you can get persons out of here. or even persons into here to seek medical attention, because once you can develop medical tourism here, getting people to and from the island becomes critical. So I fully agree with Coy on that one. The only challenge you would have to make sure about don't come and shut it down, but I can't call no government name. But transportation is a key thing to getting persons to and from Anegada. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Wheatley. Mr. Vanterpool, would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay.
I'm good. First and foremost, my first thing I will tackle is our health situation, ladies and gentlemen. Secondly, will be education. Thirdly, our infrastructure. These are things been plaguing us for the last 100 years. We got up here, we rant and rage, and now we have a grant to fix it, and we're talking about this and that. We need to be fixed in our health. All of us going to suffer. Don't care what happened. If I fall and break a foot, my dear friend nurse, I don't think she might even want to deal with it. The fracture might be broken in 5 and 6 places. So we need to get our health fixed. We need our education. Without an educated person, we cannot have a healthy one. So those are the two most focused things in any growing society. And then our infrastructure will come along. Thank you very much.
There was a similar debate among the very 4 candidates on Virgin Gorda on April 14. VIP Let's Talk, not at all new, but a present feature of the Virgin Islands Party, and on their most recent broadcast, they zero in on the much talked about issue.
I continue to have an issue with persons just thinking that they can place their garbage any and every place.
Oh, yeah.
They finish a job, you see them placing pipes along the road, waiting for, I guess, maybe when collection happens. And I really feel that we need to put some strong legislation in place. I know that some of the frameworks that Honorable Carvin Malone, had worked on while he was in the Ministry of Health would speak to a different approach. But I find the approach that works best is when you hit people in their pockets and in their wallets. And the reality is we have CCTV cameras that are placed in certain strategic positions. What we don't have placed, let me put it this way, they will either pay for themselves when those monitors pull up and you can determine who has been breaching or broken whatever laws we would put in place. Or, let me put it this way, if persons are doing what they're supposed to do, like for instance, Luce and I saw a bunch of young men riding with the helmets on, stop and gift them.
Yeah.
So we want to applaud those persons that are doing what they're supposed to do, but we have to be very definitive in sending a resounding message that we cannot allow to have persons thinking that, you know, the Virgin Islands is their garbage bin.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunately the way that, you know, we've been operating. So when I hear people ask the politicians, you know, what are they going to do? I appreciate that. They want us to give them the legs in order that we can ensure that persons, once they break the law, that we can hit them in their wallets.
I want to support you there, Zoe. And the idea that you have discussed about cameras, strengthening the penalties, I think that is being worked on right now. And also the idea about the cameras we've discussed directly with the solid waste department.
I love it.
But you're absolutely right. We have a problem with persons doing illegal dumping. And it brings to mind the whole waste management strategy under the leadership of Honorable Carvin Malone. We had a waste management study done. I think the name of the organization is Code Red, something like that. Somewhere around that, and had a waste management strategy that we have started implementing, and that involves recycling.
Right.
We have to deal with the issue of bulk waste. I think we could have a strategy of bulk waste that really deals with the problem on a community by community basis. I want to big up Green. Actually had Netflix
That's what I wanted to mention. They had the reveal of their new Eco Park, which I did attend today, and that was awesome.
I was actually turning in to Paraquita Bay, and I got an emergency call for my son at school, so unfortunately I didn't get to make that.
Yeah, that was really good today. It's just
I'm
amazing
jealous.
and phenomenal, the things that they're doing with the recycling up there. And I think it's something that we need to push a lot more. Because I recall having just a brief discussion today with Miss Penny, who's in charge, that if we could find a way to get our students more involved, and not just on a local level, but on international level, because there are organizations outside where students are actually taking control of the recycling, and they're doing a lot to help with the environment in this area. So if we get our students connected or our children connected with an international organization or even a regional one, so that they can see that they're not the only ones here doing it, and they will feel, more involved and to be connected with what's going on internationally, and the fact that they are contributing to help to save the planet. But and we as adults need to follow it as well. And I think we need to push this recycling a bit more.
You know what I like about the children component?
Yes.
Your children keep you in check.
They do.
Your children keep you in check.
Yeah.
And Honorable Malone, in partnership with Green VI, did an excellent job. And he had a competition
in schools.
among the schools for recycling. And trust me, there was parents who never even thought about recycling.
Yes.
And their children forced them to recycle.
Yeah, because they had to do the bottles, like collection of the bottles.
Right.
So they had the whole family helping them to collect the bottles.
And I think it's
like
something that we should really do annually.
Yeah, I think we should. I really, really think we should push this recycling. And we need to have the recycling bins placed in strategic places so that we can redirect persons to get on board in a sense.
I love about us? We can sort of debate some of the merit of some of these suggestions that are coming forward.
Yeah.
Because one of the things during COVID that I appreciated was the house collection of garbage. And it may allow us to monetize, to sort of defray what the cost. Now, this is Zoe. This is not the Virgin Islands party, but as we're throwing a couple suggestions out, I thought that was very successful, but it also minimized what our waste bins and those areas look like. So it may allow us to manage those areas a bit more if we're doing that house-to-house collection. And in addition to that, when I went to school in Puerto Rico, when in Rome, you do what the Romans do, and they had their different bins that had to be placed out. Your paper bins on a Tuesday.
On a collection day.
Yes, on a specific collection day. So these are things that are achievable. And I think once you start getting persons in a mindset that this is something that they have to do, and starting with the children, because as well, we have so many educators sitting here. The reality is, it's not just about addressing the issues now, it's about changing the culture of the generations to come so that we're not perpetuating certain bad cycles.
Yeah, what you're talking about is absolutely excellent. I think it's worthy of having a discussion about, to crunch the numbers to see how affordable it is. But certainly, definitely, the status quo cannot continue. Just like you, I went to school in Atlanta. We had a house in Atlanta, and we used to, bring out the trash on the trash days. And they took it away, and of course the place was clean. And of course, if we want to be able to have a clean environment as there is in other places, you have to look to implement their policies. The policies they have is they will penalize if your grass gets too high.
Oh yes,
they will charge you for it. And that brings me to something else that I want to bring attention to the public. Last week in Cabinet, we, for the very first time in the recent history of the Virgin Islands, we passed a Cabinet decision to establish district councils.
Oh, finally. Thank God.
Great.
Yes, we made a decision in Cabinet last week to establish district councils.
Can I tell you, Virgin Gorda and Anegada right now are probably just raving their pom-poms, because when you follow the chat, especially, and I'm sure probably Jas Van Dyke, but I don't have the benefit of being in that chat. This has been one of the areas that they have been clamoring just to make sure that there's some level of representation in a holistic, in a holistic manner. So kudos.
Yeah, so every district will have a district council, and the 2nd district and the 9th district will have 2 district councils, because Jas Van Dyke will have its own district council, and Anegada will have its own district council.
Wonderful.
And the purpose of the district council is to provide, just as you said, a greater degree of participation in community affairs. And the idea behind the district council is that you will have representatives from every area of the district. So in my district, for instance, we have the Long Look area, Old Plantation area. You have Fatags Bay, Brady Gut. You have Hodges Creek. You have Parakeeta Bay. You have Brandywine Bay. You have Spring Gut area, etc. In the 7th district. You would expect all of those persons to be able to sit on a council. And also, we are making provisions that somebody, perhaps maybe from the community clinic, sits on the council. Somebody who represents the schools in the district would sit in the council, maybe a principal. You'd also have a police officer. Of course, we have community police officers. They would sit on the council. And I think perhaps maybe you had a suggestion for one other person. And the reason why I think about it is because in some countries and some places, they have competitions. They have village competitions to see which village has the cleanest community.
I love it.
Trinidad, they have the best village competition, yes.
And I can see district councils competing to see who has the cleanest district at Christmas time, who is able to decorate the district the best. And these things create pride, community spirit, and community pride. Previously, we expected a district representative and his or her committee to be the one that leads community affairs. But what you want is to be very inclusive. And you want to ensure that everyone in the district is invited to be a part. And so, of course, the district representative will have a representative on the district, on the council. And also the district representative, him or herself, will be an ex officio, or a non-voting member of the council. But this is something very exciting for the Virgin Islands. And I think some of the initiatives that we speak about, whether it's the cleanliness in the district, doing community cleanups, or whether it's the other activities that bring people together in the district, would be something very positive in our communities. I also want to speak about the fact that if you have a property which is close to the roadside, it's important for us to introduce legislation to ensure that those properties have to be kept a particular way.
Be maintained.
And also, of course, we've been able to initiate cleaning of the roadside through the rated program. And before, we would have bush cutting maybe at just a few times a year. And what we want to see with that rated program is that you have continuous cutting of the sides of the roads all year to keep it clean. We have a ways to go. There's a lot of work to be done, but I believe we're moving in the right direction. We're moving forward.
On that very broadcast, the Premier and Minister of Finance, Dr. the Honorable Natalia D. Wheatley, had much to say on the matter of increments, a long cry of public officers, especially teachers.
I'll explain the increments like this. We've already budgeted the money in the last SAP, and we've already made the cabinet decision to pay increments for five years. And I have to say to you, Sister Luce, I'm going to set the record clear because I saw a billboard, a shameful billboard, speaking about not paying increments. And I got from good sources, the National Democratic Party put up that billboard that's talking about VIP is a government of mistakes. And I'm going to address that at the closing rally. You don't miss that closing rally because I'm going to be talking about 10 glass houses. at that closing VIP rally. I'm going to address 10 glass houses, and you don't want to miss it. It's going to be fire.
Is there fast track in there? Just asking for a friend that came in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But anyway, they have up on the billboard no payment of increments. And can you believe that? The National Democratic Party of the last administration did not pay increments for 2016, for 2017, or for 2018. The Virgin Islands Party had to pay the increments for those years that the National Democratic Party was in power. Virgin Islands Party paid increments for 2016, 2017, and 2018. And in Cabinet, we made the decision to pay increments in 2018 and 2019 with arrears. And for 2020, 2021, and 2022, we moved up the steps. So when persons come to you with nonsense telling you that there has been no increments paid, you tell them that the Virgin Islands Party in this administration made sure that increments will be paid for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Wow.
2 of the years with arrears. 2018 and 2019 with arrears. So don't listen to the misinformation. Listen to the facts. And these things are facts. You can look for it. It was a cabinet decision. It was made public. I'm not sure if they did a press release on it.
Yes, they did.
They did a press release was done on it. Go Google it. It is the truth. And compare it to the lies which are being told on billboards up and down the Virgin Islands. So it's just, in my view, a shameful act to mislead and deceive the people of the Virgin Islands.
Play on their emotions.
And just to add to that, Premier, the reality is that this government saw it fit to ensure that increments were paid. And the decision in Cabinet really boiled down to not just paying 2018 and 2019 with arrears, but getting persons the additional 3 steps up so that they could be at their current salary that they should be at had we continued paying increments under the previous administration and ours. And so it's unfortunate that they would say no increments were paid when really we had to go back and pay the increments that they did not pay. But even more so, because we also made the decision to do the salary review, that is why also it was extremely important, because that salary review finishes in August. Yeah. And so all people would be at their correct salary range going into that review, so that they wouldn't even be considered at lower scale than where they should be. And so these are the type of financial decisions that the Virgin Islands Party has made to ensure that all people receive equitable pay, and we're continuing to follow that mandate, and we look forward to the conclusion of the salary review, where all public officers would be able to finally be paid a salary that is commensurate to their skills and their expertise. Yes. It's a Virgin Islands Party government that did that.
Yeah, so let's just make sure people understand. I want to repeat that so people could understand. As a result of the Virgin Islands Party government, we have been brought current as it pertains to our steps.
Yes. Wow.
We were behind 3 steps because of the lack of payments under the National Democratic Party governments. We were behind.
Yes.
We brought ourselves current. And by the end of the year, you will be at the steps where you're supposed to be. Yes. We budgeted the money, and we made the decision in Cabinet. And we also made the decision to have the salary review, which was the first salary review done since Ralph O'Neill's government back in 2002.
That will do it for this edition of Front Row Elections 2023 featured. Just to remind you that on Monday, April 24, electorates will go to the polls to decide on the new government, and JTV will be on the ground to bring you full coverage live as the results are released by the Elections Commission. We have a great team of panelists who will provide commentary throughout the process and more. So be sure to stay logged on to JTV here on our YouTube channel, Jahphix Television-JTV, and on our website, jahphixtelevision.com. Thank you so much for joining us.
When things get hot like a sauna, you want a Lana in your corner. I'm feeling stronger with Lana in we corner. Our country has more power with Lana in we corner. The future looking brighter with Lana in we corner. We have a real fight with Lana in we corner. Yes, we have a rocket launcher. Lana in we corner. Ready to blow up any monster. Lana in we corner. No retreat, no surrender with Lana in we corner. Yes, we have a real defender with Lana, Lana, Lana in we corner.
Opiate. Hi, I'm Cowboy, and I'm running for president of Steak. Thank you. And I will meet your needs. Some bathrooms are so expensive to build, they come with security. But at Staycation Butchers, our meats are affordable. People always ask me, Cowboy, where does your salmon come from? Well, our salmon comes from the water. A vote for Cowboy is a vote for quality, integrity, and consistency. So come into Staycation Butchers and cast your vote for me, your next president of steak. Alexandra Durant approves this message.
No, I don't.
We know that where you choose to bank matters, and it is your vote on what your funds do in strengthening our community. As your official Bank of Paradise, we invest and support the lifeblood of our economy by helping in the realization of personal goals for homeownership, education, and entrepreneurial visions, which support small businesses. We make it our place to connect with persons and worthy causes, and we have been doing so for more than 30 years. Where your money goes and what your dollars empower are your choice. And we thank you for choosing us, a bank that gives where it matters the most, for you, for our community, and a happier tomorrow. The National Bank of the Virgin Islands.
Everyone looks to the future, but no one truly knows what the future holds.
The number of people under the age of 20 with type 2 diabetes could increase by 49% by 2050. Let it be known that we all have a 30% chance of developing hypertension.
Globally, more than 300 million people of all ages suffer from depression.
More than 60,000 young adults aged 20 to 39 are diagnosed with cancer each year. Obesity leads to problems such as stroke, heart disease, and kidney failure.
No matter your race, age, or color, we are all at risk.
These diseases can be managed or prevented if caught early.
But with the right medicine and the right doctors to keep us on a path to live a robust and healthy life,
we will live well.
Plug into Digicel Plus and get even more entertainment with Disney Plus included. The best of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic all in one place. Whenever you want, plug into Plus to enjoy Disney Plus and much more with a home fiber bundle. Sign up today. Digicel Plus.